Hello, Bay Ridge. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. I want to begin this week, first off, by thanking Jer and Ryan Jackson for teaching while I was off on vacation. I'm really appreciative of them doing that, giving us a break as we were gone for a week on vacation. And then on Sunday, we were up with the baby dedication of our youngest grandson, Brantley. And it's good to know that we have men who can feed and care for the flock. And that gave me a break, and I really appreciate them. So I want to give a shout out to them and say thanks. This week, I also want to take a little time to complete my testimony, as it were. We've broken down in a couple of parts before of how I became a believer and then how I sensed God calling me into ministry. And I kind of last time brought us right up to the edge of when I became an elder in our congregation. As I had said, it had been over 12 years. I was serving in our church here as a small group leader. But as the church was going through a bit of a struggle in time, the former pastor, Phil Byler, had sensed a call from God to go somewhere else. And so he was heading down to Georgia. But there was only a 3-week span of time from when he announced that he was going to be leaving and going somewhere else. And he had recommended to Donnie and Tommy, who were the other elders, and they took me out to supper one evening and asked if I wanted to become the interim pastor of the church at least. We met with the church council and a few other interested individuals and talked about it. And so during November of 1993, I was actually set in as an elder here at the church. And then on December the 1st of 1993, I became the pastor of the congregation. As I said, we were pretty small at the time, and financially we were struggling. We were only about 50 or 60 people. So I had to keep working my other job. I had Linda, and we had the 4 little kids at the time, ranging in age from about 2 or almost 3 up to not quite 7. And so I had to continue with my other jobs, working as a computer programmer. But over the next 18 months or so, I was able to first start by cutting back to part-time at the other job and working at the church part-time, and then eventually coming here full-time. And throughout the time now, it's been almost 24 years, there have been periods of immense blessing, and there have been periods of trials and difficulties. That's the way that life is. In fact, what's really, really interesting, as I think back about the time when I was asked to become pastor, I had this call from God. I knew it was there, but the darkest time of doubt for me was right before God actually fulfilled the call. This past week, I was completed a biography of John Calvin, and he was a pastor and leader over the church in Geneva, and the city motto for Geneva was Post Tenebras Lux, a Latin phrase, and what it means is after darkness, light. And they were speaking of the Reformation breaking forth in their own city and what was happening there for them. But the same thing is true for us in our Christian life very often. The darkest moment of doubt for me, the biggest struggle for me regarding the call God had on my life was right before God actually fulfilled that call. But he did fulfill it. He was true to his word and his promise, and he brought us through. And the same thing has happened multiple times in the history of the church. As we walk through our Christian lives, as we walk with one another as brothers and sisters, there are always good times and bad times. There are times of light and times of darkness. And sometimes the darkness is greatest right before the dawn. And that is certainly true in God bringing me into ministry here at the church and being an elder. It's been true throughout the 24 years. It's been overall a time of immense blessing and gratitude as we raised our children here. We've seen them all walk with Jesus. We've loved the friendships and the way we've been able to build here in the congregation. But that does not mean that all times are that way. But what I can tell you is, even when the darkness seems great, after darkness does come light. And so I want to encourage you to think through your own testimony. Look back at what God has done in your own life as to how he gives you a call, how he fulfills that call, and sometimes the dark nights that we have to walk through on the way to seeing it done. It's been 24 years since God fulfilled the call that he'd given to me 12 years before that. It's been much of my life has been consumed around this, but God has been faithful. He has done it with me. He will do the same thing for you. So I hope you have a blessed week. I look forward to gathering with everybody this Sunday as we continue to worship our great and gracious God.